We are currently on the other side of midnight in Philadelphia, and my wife would be extremely upset if she knew I was making this video, but joke's on her because she hasn't watched my content in years, and as they say, what mama don't know don't hurt. Now, some of you may have heard the story of the Lyft driver in Philadelphia that got carjacked and shot, but what you don't know, and what I find so interesting, is where that happened. And being that I'm in Philadelphia, I thought it would only be right for me to take you to the scene of the crime. And the reason I want to do this is I don't know how to frame this because I don't want to sound like I'm victim blaming. You know, nobody ever deserves to get shot. All right, that's not true. But nobody ever deserves to get carjacked and shot. But there is an element to this story that I think is important to be addressed because Lyft and Uber have been around for over 10 years now. And for those of you who have engaged or participated in the gig economy or will engage or participate in the gig economy, there is a truth that has to be confronted. And you can sit there and you can scream to the high heavens that Lyft and Uber need to do something better about safety. And there are elements of that that are true. But there are also elements that are the responsibility of anybody using Uber or Lyft, be it as a rider or driver, that there's just certain ways that, you know, in the world, there's going to be danger and you need to take certain steps to avoid that danger. And where this shooting, where this pickup happened, in my mind, being that I'm from Philadelphia, when I saw this story, my first thought was, what the hell was this guy doing picking up people in this area? And I'm going to take you to that area in a second, and you can decide for yourself what you would have done. But before that, here's the story for those of you who don't know it.
An update on a shooting and carjacking that left a Lyft driver injured. Police say they're still searching for a second suspect after taking one suspect into custody. Shooting happened just after 2:30 this morning near 9th and Fairmount Avenue. Police say the driver was shot twice and is in stable condition. Investigators say two men managed to drive off without the car's key fob. That car was traced to Jersey City, New Jersey. Police arrested a 17-year-old and found a firearm with that stolen car.
What's hilarious about this shot here is that if you heard the reporter, he said it happened on the 900 block of Fairmount. And every other report I saw confirmed that it was indeed the 900 block of Fairmount where the shooting occurred. But they're showing 11th and Fairmount. And I'm guessing it's because even the cameraman was like, screw that. I don't get paid enough to go there. And I will show you how shady that spot is in just a second. But before I do, I want to tell you what most Uber drivers were thinking when they hear this story. So,
it was a little after 2 a.m. on Thursday morning. So you got to think it's really Wednesday night going into Thursday. And that right there, to me, is a huge red flag because anybody that's out and about on a Wednesday night, I mean, think about it. If you're out and about at 2 a.m. on a Friday or Saturday night, my first thought is you're probably hammered. And there's an even better chance that you're not leaving the library or going to work or getting ready for church. You know, you're probably not doing something wholesome is the point I'm trying to make. So that's on a Friday or Saturday night. On a Wednesday night, honestly, I wouldn't drive at that time because I don't want to know who's getting Ubers at that point. And I'm sure there's a lot of people maybe working the midnight shift or maybe they're catching a red eye or whatever it is, right? But there is a much higher chance that you're going to run into somebody that can cause you some problems. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack in some of my videos for canceling rides where I've felt uncomfortable. People say that it's my responsibility as an Uber driver to pick people up just because I was called to a certain area, or it's my obligation because I signed up for this app and that's what comes with it. Now, let's ignore the fact that that's just not true because as an independent contractor, it's not like I earn any sort of hourly or I'm entitled to any sort of compensation or wages. I'm an independent contractor. I get to pick and choose jobs as I want. And let's ignore the fact that even if I was an hourly or even salaried employee, you people, like, I don't want to call you sheep that think like this, but like, listen, just because you have a job or an employer doesn't mean that you don't have personal autonomy anymore. You still make the choices you make. If you showed up to work tomorrow and your employer told you to jump off a bridge, I know it's cliche, you wouldn't do it just because he's your employer. Literally, every single day you are choosing to go to work. You are choosing to do your duties. That's why I never understand about why people complain about their jobs. It's like, you're choosing to do it. If you don't like it that much, don't do it. Okay, sorry, rant aside. So at 2 a.m., an Uber is called to the 900 block of Fairmount. And this is the 900 block of Fairmount.
And to be clear, where I'm shooting this video is actually 8th and Fairmount. 9th and Fairmount is here. The pickup point given to this Lyft driver was literally under the overpass.
Now again, it's 2 a.m. in a remote area with nobody around.
And there are two young men that you never met before, that you don't even have so much as their real name, waiting under an overpass to get into the back seat of your car.
For all those people who say that you have an obligation as an Uber driver, or it's your responsibility because you signed up for the app, let me ask you something. Would you pick somebody up here? Would you fulfill your Uber obligation? 2 a.m? Fuck that. And I'm calling out those kind of people that have that mentality because I fear that a lot of people who get into the gig economy, who come from a more traditional employer-employee relationship, who just do what they're told, don't understand that you're on your own with this gig. And this is where, again, it's not victim blaming, but I don't know how to address this story without being realistic. If you're driving Uber and you pull up to a place or a situation that you deem unsafe, just cancel and drive away. You know, I get more than most Uber drivers due to the fact that, you know, I post these videos on the internet. I get more shit than most people for canceling rides, or, oh, you felt unsafe because it was raining, or blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? I would much rather get shit from other people who aren't in my shoes than put myself in an unsafe situation. I would much rather cancel on two young men and feel a little guilty when I go home, because let's be honest, chances are nothing bad was going to happen. But I would much rather go home and feel guilty than do the idealistic thing and get shot. So the moral of the story is, any sort of whiff of unsafeness or hazardous situations, just bail the hell out of there, man. You have no obligation or responsibility to Uber, Lyft, or the people you're picking up to go through with this. This is the benefit of being an independent contractor, the benefit of not getting paid, you know, higher wages than what you might think you deserve. The benefit is that we're independent contractors. We could just bounce out on a job whenever we feel like and sign off whenever we want. The freedom that comes with it is what's supposed to make up for, you know, the lack of decent wage and the fact that we totally destroy our car doing this shit. Now, the other thing about this story that stood out to me was that the car that they stole was a 2025 Chevy Malibu with Florida plates. Now, what that tells me, as someone who's familiar with the gig economy, and I'm sure other Uber drivers picked up on that too, it wasn't some guy from Florida drove up to PA and started Ubering in Pennsylvania. I mean, sure, there's a small chance it happened, but what's most likely, especially when you see a newer car with out-of-state plates, means that he's renting that for Uber. And that explains why he's working, you know, at overnight, on a Wednesday. These people that rent these cars for Uber, they're not appreciated enough. It's amazing what they do. They work like 60, 70, 80 hours a week because they got to make their money back to pay for the rental, and then they want to turn a profit that's good for themselves. I would love to be able to talk to this driver. I can't find his name anywhere. I'm sure if I called around Philly hospitals, they won't release it. But if by chance this driver sees this, or if somebody knows this driver, contact me. I would love to have you on my channel. I will pay you for your time handsomely. And I want to know what you were thinking when this was happening, because I'm sure you had to feel like something was off. And I'm very curious if part of that was like, you feel like you can't cancel a ride because Uber might, ding your account or whatever it is. I'm curious if, you're unfamiliar with the city. And I'm also curious, like, dude, once it happened, like, holy smokes, like, I know I'm giving you, what I like to, consider fair criticism. If you were a friend, I'd be saying like, dude, what were you thinking picking up there? But I'm doing this because I'm a big believer in you go through something to save someone. So it obviously sucks that this guy got shot. But, if his story can help prevent somebody else from feeling obligated to pick up in an unsafe neighborhood, maybe him getting shot and surviving saved someone's life. And the second thing I have to say is like, holy smokes, man, that's badass. Getting shot twice, getting out of the car, taking the key fob, and then being able to call the cops after a few blocks after getting away. I mean, hot damn, man. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you pull up to this situation and there's two men, young men, two kids. I mean, the kid was 17, which is just crazy in itself. I mean, I met a homicide detective in Philadelphia, and he told me the craziest part about Philly in the past 10 years is that the people who were committing the crimes 10 years ago were 18 to 25 years old, and now it's the 10, 12, 15-year-olds that are like committing the same offenses that the adults were committing years ago. And it's like two 17-year-olds carjacking people at gunpoint and shooting them. Man, what a world.
And hey, shout out to my Honda Civic. I know you got $4,000 worth of repairs just to pass an inspection and you're hanging on by a thread, but thank you for not dying under the overpass where an Uber driver got shot. It is the last place I'd want to get stranded.